Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, welcome to episode 390 of my live stream. I'm going to be working on page 137 of roughing out a comic book, page 137 for my graphic novel, Not Death But Love, the Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. It's a super late night, so I'm going to try to not get super loud while I stream, and I'm just going to work on comics and hang out. So if you're joining me, welcome, and let's get into it. So here is my beautiful camera. Usually I also have a second camera. I don't know what happened to that. I might have to eventually kind of maybe invest in a separate other camera. Let me see if I can get, at least I'll try to get the window here. Okay, I think this is it. Okay, I'm gonna get this window down so it's under the live thing. And what we're gonna do is first I'll show you guys what I did while we hung out with the family. I basically, we had dinner and we watched the latest Wallace and Gromit. And I was really excited that was actually on Netflix. We had not seen it. And so it was pretty amazing. The Penguin returns, the Penguin villain, and a lot of trouble ensues, and it's just as fun as all Wallace and Gromit stuff. I love Wallace and Gromit. So does my son. He was so furious at that penguin. It was pretty fun to watch. But anyhow, while we were watching that, I set up my laptop. I got a nice new little like portable table for my laptop so that when I'm working on my laptop, I'll be able to like kind of do that and chill and do family stuff too. So like if everybody's watching a movie or something, I figure at least that way when it comes to like next year where I'm going to be doing a lot of like classwork and stuff like that, being able to kind of hang with the family and do that is a good thing. Okay. So what's this to my left? We've transitioned back to, I'm trying to remember the location here. We already drew it earlier. It's the rooftop of the terrace of Via Boca de Leon, 43. And Sophie and Elizabeth are having an afternoon tea. And basically having friends over. So we've already resolved that the picture was sent back, and there we go. So anyhow, they're sitting there, they're kind of having their tea. Elizabeth's not looking so great. She's gonna have like extra bags under her eyes because she's all opiumed out. And Sophie is saying, did I not tell you the weather would be perfect? And then Elizabeth is saying it is lovely, and then it's an overhead shot just kind of reestablishing this is like a tea on the patio here, and then it says, "Ba, do you forgive me for the other afternoon, the spirit writing?" So that's where we're at. Now we're gonna work on the next rough. So what I usually do in those cases is I'm going to go ahead and merge all of these, copy it, and that way I have the setting to reference. And I actually shouldn't have closed that just yet. I accidentally closed it. And what I also need to bring over are some of the references, because this is a historical place that actually existed, and so we're going to kind of do that. It's always weird on like vacation days, getting time off and stuff like that, but also being knee deep in a graphic novel where I feel like no matter how much work I put in, it feels like I'm not quite where I need to be. But that makes sense because I have about 100 pages left to go. So that's not too bad, though. That's over halfway, which is pretty exciting. So definitely over halfway at this point, which is cool. So now we're swimming towards the shore. And I think it's possible to kind of get it done. But then again, the whole like insanity of being a cartoonist is being able to convince yourself that making a 200-page graphic novel is possible. I know it's possible because other people have done it. I haven't done it yet. I've done over 200 pages of comics, but not really bit off this big of a project in a while. Okay, so there were a couple other things that I wanted to kind of import over. This was going to be, this down here is reference for like the costumes and the tea. And then that's the location itself. And I think that might be all I need are these 5 just to kind of carry over. Particularly the outfits are going to be pretty important. The other stuff is, stuff I can kind of remember from the scene, but still doesn't hurt to have those pulled up, especially for when it comes to finals. Because what I try to do is have all of these references available for when I actually do my final pencils as well. So what we're going to do is rough out our page. Usually I'll kind of make a list, but for some reason the last few days, making a list of like breaking down the script hasn't been as productive as it usually is. So I've been just kind of going forward and just kind of starting the thumbnail and seeing where that goes, and seeing if those work out, because they have been working pretty well. So okay, here it is. Elizabeth looks at her kindly. Okay, let's take a peek and refresh our last panel. Okay, so this is her kind of turning to Ba and saying, "Ba, do you forgive me for the other afternoon, the spirit riding?" Okay, so the next shot is going to be her looking at her kindly. Got it. Okay, here we go. So we're going to have Elizabeth now kind of leaning to Sophie and saying there is nothing to forgive. So what we'll do is we'll kind of work out the posture a little bit. Her hand, I want her hand to be kind of more resting down. This arm is still going to be holding the fan. And that's going to be her saying there is nothing to forgive. And this is going to be Sophie here. So as a reminder too, in the plot, right, Sophie is trying to convince Elizabeth that she is contacting the dead, kind of basing it on what she learned from home. I think her hand should be here, which means Elizabeth's hand can be here, kind of tenderly placed there. Where was her other hand? Her other hand was here. Dylan's here. He said, hi, Joshua. How's it going, Dylan? Hope your holidays are going okay. I got to show you guys. So I do I do a lot of music and stuff like that. And I also am a huge fan of Temu. um, I love ordering cheap products from Temu, and I've been playing this dumb game on Temu for like a year to get like free stuff, and it's like a game that just tries to get you to spend money and stuff like that. But I don't spend any money on it, so it took me about a year, but I finally won a bunch of free products, and one of them was a new ukulele for free, which was cool. So they sent that to me, um, and I was really excited because it's a really nice ukulele, like a $60 ukulele, and that sounds good, as good as a ukulele is gonna sound. But anyhow, I had to get a case for it, so then I was looking at cases, and I got to show you guys this case real quick, and then we'll get back to this page. Let me go here so you can see this amazing case. So initially, I was just going to get like a soft case, like a gig bag kind of thing, and then I stumbled upon the coolest case in the world. It has bread on it. It has like a little bread bag, probably to like keep picks in or something. And I was like, I have to own this. And the sad thing is, you'd think I got this for my son. I didn't. If they sold this for electric guitars, like at an electric guitar size, this is how I would rock all my all my uh all my cool guitar merch would be rocking these. I would love to get one of those for my 7-string. Because it's like a super metal guitar with like bats on it and stuff, and it would just be funny if the case for it was like a little kid case with like bread. Anyhow, I love that thing. Dylan said today's gotten better, less drama. Well, that's good. Too much drama can be a little much. I'm trying to figure out what to do with her arm here. That's just not going to work. Okay, better idea. This will be the arm that Elizabeth is resting her hand on. Okay. And then we'll have this. Okay, this hand can be sort of cupping her tea. Okay, that's good enough for now. Okay, this is going to be Elizabeth. Dylan said Ben can fend for himself. Well, he's not as interested in music instruments. He has been doing like music though, which is kind of cool, but like more like digital like sampled stuff. It is pretty cool though what he is doing. But yeah, he hasn't really taken like learning guitar or shown a lot of interest in that. If he did, I'd be like, here's a guitar, here's all the things you need. Like I'd be all about it. Let's see. But anyhow, needless to say, that case, even if he picked up guitar, that's staying with me. There's something magical about that case. Okay, Elizabeth is going to be saying there is nothing to forgive here. You know what? I don't even like the word balloon there. The word balloon should be here. Boom. And then it'll be like the kind of there is nothing to forgive. And this is still that close-up shot. Okay. And then this is Sophie. Dylan was saying he would ask Ben, are you ready to rock? I totally would. I'd be like waking him up at early in the morning, being like, "Let's plug in, let's jam, dude." He'd be like, "Dad, you're a loser," which is not super far off. Universal was fun. We went on the Jurassic Park ride. My son very bravely braved the Jurassic Park ride. It's pretty rad. It has dinosaurs and a big drop with water. How can you go wrong with a cool ride with dinosaurs? You know what I'm saying? Uh, but I chose the seat on this oh, Dylan said, "Do you enjoy the movie School of Rock?" I love the movie School of Rock. I love Jack Black. I've been a fan of Jack Black since the D. Um, Tenacious D, strangely enough, before they were like huge, used to tour around with a lot of bands that I liked, and they'd do like opening acts, and so I saw them live quite a few times, uh, and loved them. And then started seeing Jack Black like appearing in everything. I think the first thing I saw him in um, was probably High Fidelity, and yeah, Jack Black is great. I think Jack Black is at his best with KG um, when they're making cool, amazing music as the D. But that first Tenacious D album is one of my favorite albums of all time. Okay, so what do we got? There is nothing to forgive my spiritual sister. Okay, and then she's saying, "I would never want to upset you. You must believe I had no awareness of what I was writing." Okay, so this is going to be again, like maybe this one I can make it interesting. Just trying to think of ways to like, if we have her cup, maybe her cup's here, and we're kind of seeing it from like the cup up. Here we go. Where she could be sort of explaining to Elizabeth, and this will be Elizabeth saying, Elizabeth will just be listening and have moved a little closer. Okay, cool. This is really rough right now. Dylan said School of Rock was my first Jack Black movie. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a lot of fun. Okay. I mean, what's not to love? His van in that is amazing to me. I've always wanted like a giant wizard van. I've talked about that ad nauseum on this stream, where there's something great about that 80s wizard van, you know, where smoke comes out of it when you open the wizard painted van. And there's just loud metal music playing. There's something magical about that. Okay, now Elizabeth's going to say, "I'm convinced no spirit of mine was present." Here we go. So this will be Sophie. And then this will be Elizabeth, kind of. Okay. And this is going to be her saying, "I'm convinced no spirit of mine was present." Maybe we'll have like bring back just the semblance of another figure as well over here. Guys like my horrible roughs right now. Dylan said, I feel like my movie parents would be Ellie, Woods, and Dewey. Nice. I can't remember which one's Dewey. I am convinced no spirit of mine was present. Okay, I would renounce my gift. Okay, so this was her saying, like, okay. Okay. This is bizarre. Okay, so now I want to have. I'm going to do the good old flop. This will be Sophie kind of saying, like, I would renounce my gift. If it causes you unhappiness. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, Dylan was saying Dewey's the name of Jack Black's character. Oh, that's right. And then is Ellie the is that Joan Cusack? I think Joan Cusack's rad. I had a real long obsession with John Cusack movies back in the day, where I always felt like he was the coolest dude on the planet. Okay, I'm kind of digging this so far. This is just like real loosely placing in, but the cool thing is once I have this, it'll be no problem to get the rest of this in. Okay, so then the next part is going to be her saying, you could never make me unhappy so long as. Okay, so this one's a lot of talking. So on this one, I'm going to have it just be. This will just be Elizabeth kind of saying her piece. And she's going to be saying this long bit. You could never make me unhappy so long as blah, blah, blah. And then Sophie is going to be rising from her chair and beckoning for Elizabeth to follow. So this will be her rising from her chair, beckoning for Elizabeth to follow. Elizabeth will be kind of getting out of the chair because that's one of those things that's not going to read that well. And then this will be the other lady, and then there's a thing on the stacked thing. There were a couple cups. There's another lady here. And this needs to have a lot of text. We can't sit here all afternoon. There are people I want you to meet. So that actually needs to be cropped a little higher. We'll crop it kind of here. Bring it down. And then we're ready to rock and roll more seriously. But anyhow, Joan Cusack, I think, is amazing. She was in a movie, one of my favorite movies called Grosse Point Blank. She played the hitman's secretary, and it's one of my favorite roles, as well as her role in The Addams Family, which is hilarious. Oh, he was saying uncultured. Ellie Woods is Reese Witherspoon's in Legally Blonde. Okay, I'm less familiar with Legally Blonde. I'm way unfamiliar with that movie. Okay, I'm gonna save. and then we're going to play a trailer. And when I come back, I'm going to make these stick figures into something a little more intelligible. And also, while I do play this, I encourage you guys, if you have art and you want to get stuff out, or you have any questions for me about comics or anything like that, feel free to ask. And for now, what we're going to have is Home Shopping Crumble. I'll be right back.
Well, thank you, Colleen. I hope your daughter Kelly does well at North Carolina State this year. Well, we got another caller on the line. Elizabeth from Phoenix, Arizona. Elizabeth, what can we do for you? Are you ready to do some shopping, girl?
Oh, yes, Terry. I am ready to do some shopping today. I'm interested in that 2-book set you have. 2 Stories and Jacob's Apartment.
Oh, well, that's a great choice.
In fact, I bought these books before. I gave a set to my grandson, Hunter. These books are amazing.
Well, they sure are, and if you buy both of them, you really get the whole feel of the whole Joshua Kemble universe. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do, Terry. These books are remarkable because, for one, you can take them anywhere. You can put them in your car, and you can go to the park or the river. We've gone to the river. My husband Taylor and I, we just love it. And I murdered my husband at the river. Yeah, I did. But these still are amazing books.
All right, classic Luhan bit there. Where was... There it is. Okay. This is what I need to see here, just so that I can kind of retain a little bit of the scene. And then also, where was my ladies' outfits? Okay. Ladies' tea outfits. Okay. Dylan said, "You've broken my heart." Oh, I'm sorry to break your heart. So one thing that was really interesting about going to like an amusement park over break was, I've talked about this a bit, but I spent so long as an art director, and it was a good paying job, but it's funny, like I never had time to do things like that on vacations. And so just being able to like have a few days, like I still have to work like a dog over break, like right now on this book and stuff. But just being able to have like a moment of that and realizing that like that's what other people do sometimes. It was nice. It was nice. I will say this though, I don't like crowds, and yeah, it was fun, and I'm so glad that we went. But crowds at amusement parks are kind of nuts. May not be really fully my jam. All right, here we go. So this is going to be Sophie. She has her flower thing there. And then her costume is going to have like kind of a band here. Another thing here. This kind of goes down. There's like kind of a bow. Again, these are roughs that we're working on. So it's not, It's not like rocket science, like figuring these out. So have you guys been following any of the infighting going on with right wingers lately? It's been funny to me. I don't know. It's been interesting because I don't know. Like, to me, I'm always a little uncomfortable with the idea of, like, call me old school or something, but I'm a bit of a class warrior kind of guy. Like, I have trouble with rich people. Like, I have my whole life. And and there was something about the, like, Musk, like, Doge thing that just, to me, is the most suspicious, strange thing in the world. It's like, it's an oligarch, basically. It's like a really rich guy and another, literally the richest guy in the world, and then another billionaire being kind of put in like a unelected position to, like, kind of clean up the government or something like that. And anyhow, it's been strange because it's been like, I think, kind of dangerous to have, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not like a really big fan of Trump anyway, but if you add into that, like, the crazy influence of having a billionaire, who funded a good chunk of your campaign, like, as a bureaucrat who's going to be making big calls in office and stuff, is a little scary. Anyhow, but what's funny is, Musk really recently came out in favor of H-1B visas because he's running a business, and pretty much all businesses rely on H-1B visas, especially in engineering, because you need to kind of recruit, the most talented people from all over the world to, like, come work for your business. Like, that's the whole point of an H-1B, is like the idea of gaining talent. Anyhow, so what's funny to me is the second he came out in favor of it, and then I guess that Vivek guy, who's the other billionaire oligarch dude, um came out in favor of it, and all the kind of crazy race warrior guys on Twitter that, like, supported Trump, that are, like, very like, racist dudes who want, like, an all white America and, like, support the white working class, that kind of stuff. They lost their minds about this, because up until then they're thinking, like, oh yeah, Doge, this could be great for us, and, like, just advance our crazy agendas. And instead, what it's caused is just, like, the funniest infighting I've seen in a while. Very funny. Anyhow, it's just been funny to watch, because it's like, I think most people who've observed, the Orange Man and Musk, it's like, these are two of the biggest egos on the planet. And so the idea that these guys are going to, like, work together and not have conflict is, like, was one of the funniest things in the world. So it was kind of like a countdown in my head of, like, okay, when is a big a big eruption? Because at this point, I'm kind of over it. Like, I'm just gonna kind of watch as the whole thing crumbles, and um just say, hey, you guys voted for this. Like, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I don't think there's much else to be done other than like, hey, well, that's what you wanted, so that's what you get. But it's been funny watching right wingers like lose their mind, where they're like, oh my gosh, wait, multi-billionaires aren't like pro like American like blue collar workers? No, are you kidding me? Like, no, never. They're billionaires. What do you think? Anyhow, that's funny to me. But anyhow, what was it? Holly said, I thought Elon would say something about the tariffs, considering most production is done in China. Yeah, the tariffs are the dumbest thing. The thing is, here, okay. Again, I'm no expert, but I did work as an art director for a place that manufactured stuff in China, like a ton. And that's just where most things are manufactured. For like products, like cheap products are pretty much made in China. And I don't really have a problem with that, because like, I had to teach civics and world history almost a year ago. It's almost a year now. And U.S. history. And one of the things that I was noticing and had to teach, students was like, countries are basically exchanging. they're always going to be exchanging something. And so the question is, are the countries going to be exchanging goods or bombs? Like, because like, like this idea of a world where we can just live on a little island, and have like our little libertarian dream of just like not being involved with other conflicts, or not being involved with the world or the greater global thing, not trading globally. Like, we'll just, we're just going to kind of chill in our little country, is such it's a bad idea in so many ways, because again, not trading with your neighbor, I guess the best way to put it would be like, think about just like a neighborhood, right? If you rely on your neighbor for goods, like let's say your next door neighbor provides you with food that you eat, and then your other neighbor provides you with like materials that you use to like build your house and stuff like that. If there's ever a conflict with your neighbor, you have a lot of incentive to like make it work, because they're helping you and you're helping them. Now, if you never talk to your neighbor and you just kind of accrue a bunch of stuff in your house, right? And the neighborhood starts looking at you and going, that guy has a lot of stuff, and he hasn't really helped me. You know what I mean? Just think about human nature. I'm just saying, like, it's dangerous to not be trading with global powers. Like, we should be, exchanging goods and stuff like that. Not just that, but the amount of people who aren't aware of like the importance of trade routes, like, safe trade routes, and the amount of global cooperation required to have safe trade routes for all goods. It's just insane. Like, I remember at some point, something that opened my eyes on this was somebody was talking about how a pencil was made, right? And they went through all the different sourcing that's involved in just a pencil. And so it's like the wood is usually from like Indonesia, and then the graphite usually comes from like a specific spot in Africa, and then the eraser and metal come from like China, and then the assembly is done in like, the States. It's like, it's like there's like 10 different continents, or like 5 different continents involved in just a single pencil that we use, right? And so the idea that like that's a bad thing is, I think, a really dangerous thing. But the other thing is tariffs are really dumb because they're regressive. Like they don't, like the factories, like Musk won't be paying those tariffs. Those tariffs, like, it's funny because Holly was saying, I thought Elon would say something about the tariffs. No, they won't care about the tariffs. The tariffs will affect the consumer. So it'll give them a reason to raise the price of Teslas and cause probably a trade war where we have a bunch of tariffs placed on us, and they're really hard to repeal. So there's tariffs that exist currently that were put into place in like the 70s that nobody likes, but they can't pull back because there were so many retaliatory tariffs that it's like layers of onion that just get embedded into the global economy, and then it's hard to you can't kind of go back. That's the part that's tough. So I don't know. I think that's one of the reasons it's pretty dumb. Dylan said, I think it's important to have the U.S. be more self-sufficient, but not 100%, but because a single country can't support itself for the long run. Yeah, and isolationism historically has led to the downfall of most major civilizations. Just in history. Like every now and then, every 100 years, 200 years, there's some country that thinks, oh, we'll just isolate, we'll just be our little bubble. And that usually leads to your demise as a country. It just does. Okay. We have one going. I'm going to play another trailer and I'll be right back. I'd love to hear what you guys think, but I think the infighting's great. I love it. I love it when there's infighting on the right. And I hope it continues, and I hope it causes a lot of stagnation so less damage can be done in the next 4 years. That's what I hope. Let's see here. Where was it? Okay, I'm going to put on Frank's Adventures at the Library, and then we'll come back and we'll rock the rest of this rough.
Our heroic adventurers fought orcs, monsters, sorcerers, necromancers. Now they find themselves in front of a mystical library. What shall they find? It's all in the roll of the dice.
We've come this far. There's great power behind this door. I can feel it. We just have to get past it. This door is no match for my axe. I shall chop it down. You always want to use brute strength. Why don't you try knocking? We'll try it your way. You may enter. The library is open to all those who seek knowledge. Feel free to look through our tomes. Maybe you'll find the answers you seek. I sense great power here, and it's behind those shelves. Indeed, there are powerful items hidden behind these shelves, but you can only get there through the enchanted words. Do you have those words? I believe I do.
Tremble before the Krembo.
There is great power. Look at that glove. Must be so powerful. That is not where I sense this power. I must get closer. I found them. I found these sacred manuscripts written by Joshua Kemble. Behold, I now possess 2 stories and Jacob's apartment. Please tell us more about 2 stories and Jacob's apartment, and who is Joshua Kemble?
Xeric Award-winning cartoonist Joshua Kemble is a freelance artist, graphic designer,
and author. Two Stories is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. Jacob's Apartment is a coming-of-age graphic novel in the vein of Ghost Road and Fun Home. It weaves together the threads of spiritual faith, identity, purpose, love, and loss to create an engrossing world in which waking and sleeping dreams collide.
You have made your choice. The passage is now closed. Wait, can I get that glove? No. Oh. Alright, let's go.
Yeah, Dylan said it's crazy how this big capitalist wants tariffs when it's going to and has caused small businesses to shut down or to only ship in the U.S. Not only that, it costs businesses a lot, and there are certain manufacturing jobs that the U.S. just doesn't have the infrastructure to do, and really, honestly, I don't know if we want to. I kind of agree with Dylan in the sense that for national security reasons, it's obviously good for us to have, like certain infrastructure, like the acquisition that I can't even, I think it was like Japanese steel or something tried to buy U.S. steel recently, and that got blocked by Biden. I think that was a good call because it's like we don't want to have no steel. Like that could be a real problem if we ever end up in a conflict. There's some kind of essentials that we want to make sure we encourage, U.S. production of. Like chips would be a good thing for, the U.S. to invest in here, because that's going to be kind of essential when it comes to any sort of conflict as well, right? Like what chips are going to go in our computers or in our crazy sensor filled fighter jets, like where are those sensors going to come from? And like things like the Chips Act, stuff like that, that's smart, but just flat out tariffs, I don't think. The thing is, I think if you even ask Trump to like define a tariff, I don't even think he knows what they are or how they function, or knows that they're actually not paid by the companies, they're paid by the consumer. And the what is she saying here? Okay. The president of Mexico rightfully kind of responded to some of the tariff talk. It's so dumb. That's the dumbest one, is tirading about like Mexico and Canada and adding tariffs to them. That's bizarre to me. Because I mean, Trump actually updated NAFTA. Like it's not even called NAFTA anymore. I always forget what it's called now. But one of his big accomplishments was actually was like modernizing NAFTA to have a better agreement between Canada, Mexico, and the US, which is smart because of all trading partners. Like I said, if you're not trading goods, you're trading bombs. Like that's just historically usually how it goes. Or bullets or swords or whatever. But it's one of those things where especially those countries, like the countries that border us, like it's good for us to keep good relations with those countries, especially if we're trying to tamp down on like immigration or whatever kind of issue Trump is tirading about. Like you're going to need the cooperation of that country that's like right at our border. And also we get a ton of product and benefit from selling and buying in Canada and Mexico and And so like the idea of just like trying to make them have to, so the president of Mexico just rightfully was like, hey, just so you know, you kind of had to school Trump about how it works, where it's like you realize like you put that tariff in place and we're going to put retaliatory tariffs in place. And then we're going to end up in scenarios where we're hurting, companies that are in both countries, which seems like a bad move. So anyhow, that to me is funny. Dylan said, literally just think about big oil. Most of that is outside of this country. Holly said, I have friends that make enamel pins and we're terrified as there's literally no American company that manufactures them. Yep. And where I used to work as an art director, we made enamel pins. And the only other options really are like Bangladesh. Like it's, basically like if, but there's no companies that make them as well. That kind of manufacturing, like metal manufacturing, especially for souvenirs and products like that, books too. Just there aren't as many places that specialize in printing like that kind of thing, like enamel pins especially. So the only other place for really enamel pins other than China that's like viable is Bangladesh, right? So, and that's something you want to think about too. This is the other regressive part about tariffs that I don't think Trump thinks about is like, okay, so tariffs on China. Do you want to fund? Would you prefer funding India because that's where most of the money will go? Like, basically, people aren't going to bring stuff back to the U.S. like just because of that. And then the learning curve to bring that back is just immense. Now keep in mind, I think US made products are great. And I think, buying made in US is great. A perfect example of why made in US is great is like made in US guitars. They're still like the best guitars in the world. However, as a consumer, I buy Chinese guitars a lot more often, or Indonesian guitars, because the guitar manufacturing, while it's the best in the world in the US, it's also the most expensive in the world. So, all the places that are the best are more expensive. And then, what's great is the countries that they're outsourced to get better and better. And eventually prices kind of come down. And I don't know, I like that. I also just, again, like, I think it's important to be, I think we should encourage trading with any country that we kind of can, And also, here's the thing. This is the thing I think Trump might want to think about is, so what is like the best weapon you have without weapons, right? Is if you're trading and a country behaves in a way you don't like, you can add sanctions, right? And you have exports and imports, so sanctions actually have an impact, right? Where it's, sanctions have some teeth. The reason sanctioning Russia had a big impact on the Russian economy was, heck, we trade with Russia and like they sell us a lot of goods, we sell them a lot of goods. So sanctioning them like had this huge impact, you lose that tool, that tool of conflict by tariffing, getting into a trade tariff war. That takes away a lot of your power because, again, you're not trading. So again, if you're in conflict with your neighbors and you're constantly trading with your neighbors, you know what I mean? it's not rocket science. It's not like super hard to figure out why that kind of thing is a problem. So let's say, we get in this giant tariff war with China, and then China makes some steps we don't like. What are we going to sanction them? Like, we're already tariffing them. You know what I mean? Are they going to care? Whereas now we're pretty interdependent. And so if you were to say, hey, like, we're not going to trade with you anymore if you do this kind of thing, that actually has some teeth. But the more you kind of impede that process, like the worse it gets. Now, the downside of this kind of global system we have is they can do the same. But again, that's good. That like incentivizes people to get along. That's my thought on it. I'm a big fan of trade. I'm also a big fan of unions and U.S. made products, but again, I think sometimes I think the right wing needs to figure out what they are. Like, are you guys pro worker? Are you going to continue to be anti-union, anti-American when it comes to labor? Because if you do that, like, you're going to end up in scenarios where all our manufacturing is where it is, and at the cost of the American worker temporarily, right? However, you get the benefit of like specialization, like where it's like we may not build all the components, but we're really good at assembling all the components and kind of making really cool stuff. And if we're busy making the components again, like, that takes a lot of our labor force away from the kind of more complicated, cool stuff. Dylan said, a lot of people say you pay for the field notes brand name since it's $15 for 3 pocket 48-page notebooks, but they don't know that it's made in America. We don't want 1984 to become a reality, which is odd because the right loves that book. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, they misquote that book all the time and don't even realize that Orwell was a socialist. Like, yeah, that always cracks me up, actually. There's actually a couple socialist things that crack me up that people don't always realize. Woody Guthrie was a hardcore socialist. This land is your land. And that's always at, Republican things. It's like, I don't know. The funniest one of those was, I think this was like around the time of January 6th or whatever, when they were, the right was like losing their minds over the election, denialism stuff, where they were unable to accept the loss that they had during that election. And I think there's a video that went viral of a bunch of people in like American gear, and they were, like had their Make America Great Again hats and stuff on, and they were dancing around and rocking out to Killing in the Name Of by Rage Against the Machine. And like they had it blasting while they were protesting the results of the vote. Like they were protesting the Biden winning, basically. And Tom Morello, I think on Twitter at the time, because Twitter was still Twitter at that point, said, I don't think you guys understand the meaning of this song. Oh, and the funniest part was a couple of the people were wearing like Blue Lives Matter shirts. And it's like, you guys realize like like what that song's about. Anyhow, it was just very funny. So that was interesting. That angle ended up being kind of wacky. Like, I thought I could make it work, but nah, digging it. I think I need to. Let's see if I can fake it since this is rough. Because it's like I like that idea of that angle, but I don't like her having this giant head. That definitely wasn't a benefit. Yeah, may not be fixable here. Hey, that kind of works a little better. I don't know. It's a rough. Who cares? Gets the point across. Okay. It's one of my problems is I will spend too much time on roughs. On the last stream, I spent just the right amount of time on roughs, and then this stream, I'm starting to zone out and spend too much time on the roughs when they're just roughs. Dylan said foreshortening is tough to master. All right, guys. We're gonna continue this in a second. I'm gonna put on a trailer, get a glass of water. But yeah, what Holly was saying about enamel pins and people being terrified of like high tariffs, yeah, for sure. And that goes for like any company that's, using like screws or components or parts. Your costs for things like Home Depot are going to go up, like tools, supplies, raw materials. Yeah. Paper cups, like things that you're getting at, when you go out to eat, like, the silverware, the different packaging, all of that stuff. Yeah, I think people will be surprised. It's funny because I think a lot of Republicans like shop at Walmart or are fans of Walmart. I think they're going to be real surprised when everything costs like 10 times as much at the local Walmart, All right. Here we go. Let's play. Let's play Christopher Runciman's review of Jacob's Apartment. I'll be right back.
Hi, my name's Chris and I like comics. I want to talk about this comic for a second here. I just got this in. I ordered it direct from my local comic shop through Diamond Distributing. It's Joshua Kemble's Jacob's Apartment. I really enjoyed this book. There's all kinds of comics out there, let's be honest. There's fun comics, there's superhero comics, there's young adult comics, there's adventure comics for kids. There's so many different things under the planet. But there's also an entire subgenre of alternative books. Real life, real world depictions in comic book form. Situations that happen to each and every one of us. And this is a fine example of that. If you get a chance, order this book from your local comic shop. You won't be disappointed. I can't sing its praises high enough. Okay? Check it out. Jacob's Apartment by Joshua Kemble.
Yeah, Holly was saying, since I'm in a mortuary science program, expect funerals to be much more. Oh, there's so much cost, even for American-made things, because the things that they're making the American-made things with, a lot of those materials are sourced from China. So, like a lot of the metals, a lot of the components, like screws, just like all these little things. Yeah. And it's a tough bind because you got to kind of pick a lane, you know, try to be consistent. I know there's always going to be inconsistency and stuff with things, but okay. This is her saying, I am convinced no spirit of mine was present. And by that, she means Christmas present. You know what I'm saying? I'm here all night, guys. You know you missed my terrible jokes. You know, those of you who are in the night gang are like, yeah, I kind of missed the horrible jokes of the Kremble. Oh yeah. It actually brings up a really good point. I don't know if people like this is the thing. I think people on the right especially have kind of amnesia, like they forget stuff. Cuz like I don't know if they remember during Trump's term when COVID was like ravaging the country and N95 masks, there was like a mass shortage and we had this whole issue with getting them shipped, and China worked with us to get a whole bunch shipped to us. Like that's how much we relied on China for, you know, some basic medical necessities and supplies. So that's the thing. Like a lot of people just don't think of that, like the extra cost. They probably think like, oh, I'll have to pay extra for, you know, I don't know what they're thinking actually. And the thing is, the people who eat the cost aren't going to be the owners, like the, you know, the kind of billionaire class or whatever is not going to be like hurting from those tariffs. Instead, they can kind of sit idly by and let, you know, the common man kind of suffer the pain of the adjustment as the economy like tries to learn how to like locally source. And they'll be the same people that they send to war when, you know, we're no longer trading with, you know, our neighbors, and there inevitably are like more and more global conflicts that'll arise, you know. And in the meantime, you're going to have these billionaires just kind of doing their billionaire thing, you know. like like yeah, it's not going to hurt them. It's going to pass on to, you know, blue collar, lower class. Like white collar people have the income to buy made in America stuff, you know. like you know, how often do you see somebody like Musk like shopping at a Walmart, you know? Um it's just not going to hit them like to the extent that I will hit, you know, the average man. And even the conflicts that would arise from it won't hit them, because like the people who get fed into the meat grinder are you know, they don't tend to be the wealthy. And I think that's, you know, that's something I think people should be leery of, is like oligarchies, you know, because that's inevitably the conflict of oligarchies is you cede a bunch of power to people who don't have to pay the cost when it comes to the crazy ambitions of more kind of fascistic systems. Thomas said, actually, a lot of manufacturing is already being moved from China. China's becoming too expensive. When I worked at Levi's, they were moving jean production to cheaper countries. Yeah, the main one right now, well, there's a couple. Indonesia is a huge one. But even Indonesia is starting to get more and more expensive. And so Bangladesh is like the big up and comer. That's like the hot ticket right now for cheap products. But what's again, the things like the CHIPS Act are really important because that's the one, like, there's some things I don't think we should be concerned about trade with China or other countries in regards to. Like, man, oh, that's another thing I don't think people think about is how much China funds a lot of our stuff. so like, I was just remembering movies. They're huge consumers of our products. So it's like, if we tariff them, they tariff us. And so, like, when our movies can't get funded, I don't know. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not necessarily a bad move to kind of start moving more manufacturing into the country. It's just that it's just that this weird idea that it's just going to work like magic and bring everything back here, when instead it'll bring us to other places like Vietnam or Bangladesh or like other areas that we actually have less regulations in and like less good labor practices in. So a lot of people who are like pro doing that kind of thing aren't thinking about the consequence of it leading to more exploitation, more child labor, and anyhow, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating, the myopicness of thinking. I think maybe it's hippy dippy of me, but I think we should be, let's open up trade with everybody, defend copyrights and stuff like that. But aside from that, let's open it up. Trade more, war less, Thomas was saying, I'd like to see North and South America work together a trading bloc. Yeah, that would be smart. But see, that's more of the idiocy of this administration, is in the talks of tariffs, for some reason, even though one of the few good things that the Orange Man actually got done was modernizing NAFTA in a good way, like basically upgrading our trade agreement with Canada and with Mexico. And now he's talking about tariffing Mexico and Canada. That to me is pure imbecility. And it's also bizarre because it's like, did you want the agreement you worked hard to get? Like one of the few accomplishments you made in your first time as president, you want to just go edit, undo. Ugh. But anyhow, I personally just think you start trade, you use trade as a tool. You can even use trade as a tool of conflict, but like, you need trade to be there to use it. Otherwise it just becomes actual conflict. And doesn't work out so well. I don't know though. Again, I'm here for it. My approach this year with all this stuff is like, you guys voted for it. We'll see how it goes. we'll see how it goes. Who knows? Like, the coolest thing in the world would be if I've been wrong this whole time. If I like wake up one day and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in a cult. They were right the whole time. That would make me so happy. It would. If it's like, oh my gosh, it turns out this all led to like global peace and everybody's happy and Americans are all, doing American things again, and there's no oligarchs, and I wouldn't that be the coolest result to actually be wrong? But again, my method this year, just you guys voted for it. We'll see how it goes, But it is funny to watch the infighting. The infighting's been really funny and telling. Like the fact that people are shocked that billionaires are going to be pro H-1B visas is hilarious to me. Like the fact that people are like freaked out about that. It's like, what do you think businesses do? Like, yeah. Anyhow. Okay. Dylan said, I was watching a political YouTuber saying why he voted for Harris instead of Trump, and a commentator said that he would rather have a flip-floppy president than Harris, and I was like, you can vote? Oh, was the commenter in like a kid or something? Holly said, I have friends hoarding Mexican Coca-Cola because tariffs and RFK. It's both sad and kind of funny. Yep. Well, it's okay. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but who knows? Maybe we'll all have polio next year, and it'll be a fond memory. I'm trying to be optimistic here. I don't know. I will say it'll be interesting watching the train wreck. And again, hopefully there's so much infighting that nothing gets done, and then we can come back and clean it up like we always do. Oh, nice. Dylan said, I don't know what his age was. Okay. Interesting. Okay. We got another panel done. I appreciate you guys keeping me company too. This is fun. I like working on comics late at night. This is the dark part about getting vacation time, is I get to do my late nights, my dangerous late nights. All right, guys. Let me play another trailer. This one will be Wordzoid. I'll be right back.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm going to have to go with Karen Carpenter. Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm going to go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon? Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won.
Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish. I was told I was going to get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
All right, so here we're going to do our next panel, which is going to be Sophie saying, "I would renounce my gift." Let's get that type in there. How are your guys' projects going? I'm excited about the new album, and I'm planning on working on that a little more tomorrow to try to get further on song 8. Oh, I can play that for you guys. I don't have the full song, I just have the verse. So let me play you that real quick. You know what? Let me see. Do you guys want me to just ramble, or do you want me to play a sneak peek at track 8? I think on the last stream I was able to play 1 through 7, and they were finished songs. This is a song I'm in the works of, so it's just at this point a really long chorus that I'll probably chop up. But this stream is for you guys as well, so I'll go with what you guys vote for. I love that Sophie's character is so fun. She's such a good villain. Like, she's calling, the seance stuff her gift. And it's kind of great. Okay. Holly said, "I'm doing my least favorite part of comics, flatting grays." Nice. Yeah, flatting is a beast. Flatting can be really, really annoying. For those of you who may not know, flatting is just like putting in flat shapes of color. And that's like basically like the most boring part of coloring is like laying out flats. It can be kind of fun and meditative though, but I actually really like live streaming during flatting because it's like it's fun to zone out. The only downside is flatting is also great to like listen to stuff, like listen to streams or podcasts or watch Wallace and Gromit. Dude, the new Wallace and Gromit is epic. Like, I loved it. I was also really stoked that they were able to kind of build back all the stuff that was lost in that fire. I just felt really bad for, I think they're called Aardman, but there was like this big fire that happened where all of the sets that had been built, for all of those different Wallace and Gromit cartoons just went up in flames. And so in order to kind of do this, like they had to like rebuild a bunch of those sets and stuff. It's really cool. It was cool and heartwarming to see another Wallace and Gromit. Dylan said, "I'm going to start my tarot deep dive study tomorrow." Tarot deep dive. Nice. Out of curiosity, Dylan, with tarot, this is just the skeptic in me, right? With tarot, how much of it do you think is just like Barnum stuff? Have you ever heard the phrase Barnum statements? Oh, she was gonna have her hand on her chest like she's solemnly swearing. That's what I was gonna do here. Now, don't get me wrong. I actually think tarot decks are really cool. Like the design of them, I always thought it would be fun to make one because they're just really cool, like artistically. But it's like the old skeptic in me is like wondering how much of them are like legit and how much of it is just Barnum statements where, you know, regardless of how you read the deck, like people are going to feel like, wow, you're really cluing into like my inner being, you know? I don't know. I'm always kind of curious about that because I'm even as somebody who's religious, I'm a pretty avid skeptic. Dylan said, I have heard of it, but I'm drawing a blank on what it means. So there was this era. Have you ever heard of like the Barnum and Bailey circus? So if you've heard of that, there was this kind of technique that Barnum would use, where, you know, when they were marketing the circus, they would basically make statements like, you know, that appealed to people, that made them feel like they were having their minds read. And Barnum statements are pretty much statements that feel really personal, but could be pretty much like true in any context, like to anyone who hears it, but it feels like it's insightful and it's touching base with somebody. So, a good example of a Barnum statement would be, you are really introverted. You like being by yourself, but you also kind of do feel the need sometimes to like be in crowds or to, you know, go to parties or events. But then when you go to parties or events, like you feel uncomfortable. And there is something about your personality that really wants to be alone, but you're also very outgoing. And it's like things like that, where it's like, you know, it's Barnum statements, right? It's like, yeah, I mean, that you've just described every human being on the planet. Like every human being on the planet kind of feels a little uncomfortable when they're in crowds, and then feels comfortable when they're on their own, but also feels kind of lonely and likes the company of other people. You know what I mean? But it's like you can kind of say those statements in a way that sounds like you're, you know, reading the cards, or really, you know, or you could talk to somebody my age and say, you've lost somebody close to you, you know, like there's some tension because, you know, somebody very close to you has passed away. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm in my mid 40s. So, you know, the likelihood that anyone in their mid 40s is going to not have lost someone is pretty slim. So it's like those kind of things where you're saying statements that are pretty much like can't be false. They're Barnum statements. They sound, you know, real personal, but they can't be falsified. They're unfalsifiable statements. I don't know if that makes sense. Dylan said, I'm still a skeptic. I think it's healthy to have a level of skepticism. He said there's a thing called cold reading or hot reading. Sadly, I forget what that means. Cold reading is, from what I understand, I think cold reading is the more nefarious of the two. But it's been a while since I like read up on it. I really enjoyed Darren Brown had this special. I like Darren Brown's specials and stuff. I actually like Darren Brown a lot. But he had this series on BBC a while ago where he would go to different like faith healers and spiritualists and stuff, and like kind of sell him, like he had like a protege that was going to be like the new faith healer. And so he'd go to like these places. He made like a fake faith healer, and they had like a big tent revival and did all the tricks. It was like wild how quickly they just kind of like were like, yeah, this is the real deal. And then he did the same thing where this was like when he was unknown, but he went to like a psychic place in like Arizona, and, you know, did all the psychic tests and stuff, and just basically used shenanigans and trickery to kind of like doing the tricks that they do. And and they very quickly embraced him as a psychic. It was an interesting special. I think it was called like Belief or something, or maybe that was the name of a different special of his. But anyhow, I like Darren Brown. I do like the supernatural and seances, though. It is fun. Holly said, "I'm not spiritual, but you've got a good card reading. It's the most creepy feeling when things happen as predicted." Huh. And then Dylan said, "I've had many successful readings. For instance, I did a reading for a friend about work, and I said that she would get a raise of $11. About 3 days later, she got an $11 raise." Interesting. That is kind of interesting. Hey, I'm all for it, you know. I'm all for it. I feel like the best way to do a reading, though, would be like do a cold reading of the stock market. Like, that's where my mind goes. Maybe that's why that kind of thing probably won't work for me or something. What was this going to be? Oh, this was going to be Elizabeth saying, okay, here we go. Oh my dear. You could never make me unhappy. Thomas said, "Is he the guy that showed a photo of Jeffrey Dahmer to some Russian psychics to see what they said about him?" I can't remember. I think that was that sounds more like what's his name? The old magician. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking out on his name. He's like a hardcore atheist, but he's also a skeptic. And it's like Randy the I can't remember. There's an old magician named Randy that I think notoriously disproves a lot of skeptics. He I think it's just the Amazing Randy or something. But he has like all these legendary debunks. Like he went to a faith healer. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was like the biggest like big tent revival faith healer in like Texas or something. And he ended up going in there with like a receiver and found out like a radio receiver, and they found the signal where basically like a person was talking over like a little like he had like an ear, the faith healer had like a little thing in his ear and was getting like information fed to him from like a receptionist. And the Amazing Randy, I believe, ended up exposing that for like a special on television. Like he basically tapped into the actual radio signal and played the lady saying her name is this, she's suffering from cancer. And then like the guy would like kind of go like this, and then he'd be like, "I sense that you're suffering from cancer." So anyhow, it ruined the guy's career. He also debunked the Amazing Randy also did the guy Keller, I think, the guy who bent spoons. He exposed the bending spoons on national TV. That was a great skeptic move. I'm a big fan of skeptics. She shouldn't be looking to her side. She should be looking more straight. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Thomas said, Randy, I think you're right. And then Dylan said, a lot of modern tarot readers say that tarot isn't for predicting the future, but a tool to reveal your shadow and psychological issues. But I think it's both. Dylan said, yes, I've heard of the guy. I love it. Yeah, he's amazing. He's great. It's actually one of my favorite things about magicians is because they study deception, you know, because I mean, magic tricks are pretty much deception. It's like illusion and deception. And because of that, and they're very upfront about it, they're like, I'm not actually doing magic, right? This is a show. I'm going to trick you, right? But because of that, I think they tend to be the best skeptics because, for one thing, they know the tricks, and for another, they probably get annoyed by magicians that aren't even that good, like selling their magic tricks, like like and ripping people off as like actual. So I think that that's why there's like a long history of magicians who take debunking very very seriously, like Houdini had a habit of debunking a lot of magicians. A lot of the magic tricks that that are being used in this book too. A lot of the seance stuff, like was debunked by Houdini, being done by other gents. Okay, there is a there's this here. One of the original drafts of this had Houdini as a character, but we because we knew there was a historical figure that could have kind of fit with him, but unfortunately Houdini was like 8 at the time of he wasn't old enough to be a character in this historical fiction. So instead, we went with Bosco, who was actually a mentor of Houdini, trained Houdini. But Bosco is the magician character in this story, who we met, 50 or so pages ago, but will possibly return. Thomas said, I've been told I suck all the energy out of cards and crystals. I've been told similar things because I can't remember. I had somebody a hypnotist try to hypnotize me, and they said I wasn't, I can't remember what it's called. I think suggestible or something. But it's like I couldn't do it. And I was like, I actually wanted to get hypnotized. I was like, sounds really fun, but I'm skeptical of it. Like, I don't believe it'll work. And because I don't believe it'll work, it doesn't work. Which is kind of a shame. Because it'd be fun. I've had a friend get hypnotized, and it was hilarious. It was like one of those hypnosis shows. At like a fairground. It was hilarious. He was like, yeah. And he was like a really like passive guy who didn't tend to like, had a fear of crowds and stuff like that. And before you know it, he's like running around stage, like acting like an ape. And it was kind of an amazing experience when I was a teenager. That's when I was in high school. It was at the fairgrounds. There's like a hypnotist who did a big hypnosis show. They hypnotized everybody, but I went up on stage as a volunteer, and then they sent me back because they're like, I don't think it's going to work with you. Holly said, I think a lot of people who genuinely believe that stuff have a touch of spiritual psychosis. Seeing connections that aren't there can be a bad sign. I don't know. I think sometimes being a skeptic is can be unpleasant because like for me, I'm not a really intelligent guy, but I am pretty good at like reasoning. And so if I reason something out and something just doesn't make sense, it'll just gnaw at me. And like I've had friends, who believe stuff wholeheartedly that's like really unreasonable. And there'll just be like a contradiction that just comes up and it will just bug me. And I kind of envy people who don't either find that contradiction or just kind of don't feel like that contradiction being like a nail on a chalkboard. Whereas for me, a contradiction or like a logical issue is like a nail on a chalkboard. It's like hearing somebody scratch at a chalkboard and go squeak, 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 and it just will bug me. And I can't not say something about it. And that's, it's not necessarily the best way to go, because sometimes it's better to go along to get along. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna put on the trailer. You guys, we're making really good progress here. I have pretty much, that last panel. And so just one last panel to go. So let's do something old school now. Let's do the Jacob's Apartment trailer, and I'll be right back. Thanks for the conversation, guys. This is really fun. You guys are keeping me at it. Hopefully you guys are getting a lot done too. Here's the trailer for Jacob's Apartment.
Clearly it seems that only in dreams can we see these things we've seen and walk around breathing pain. I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams.
All right, late into the night. It's the magic hour. It's 12:20. It's we're past the midnight hour here when the goblins and ghosts come out. So, Dylan said, just a tip: if you ever see a tarot reader or a witch offering 100% guarantee on their spells or readings, be skeptical, because things aren't set in stone, just like the real world. And that's why I'm the skeptic. I want 100% guarantee. There are no 100% guarantees in life, though. You're right. But seriously, if how many of you guys, like, if you were in Back to the Future Part 2, have you guys seen Back to the Future Part 2? Do you think Biff Tannen's, idea to kind of, initially it wasn't Biff Tannen. Do you think it was really all that bad of an idea to do the sports almanac? I mean, I'm just saying, like, Marty may not have been that dumb to like think, hey, now that we're in the future, let's find something that predicts the future, and then let's go bet some money on a sure thing and make a fortune. But here's a weird thing. Here's a question for chat. Because I have often wondered, actually, if I would want to be crazy rich. Like, I think I like the idea of having my needs met, but there have been times where I've actually been kind of thankful this might sound fake, right? But it's something I've sincerely thought. There have been times where I've been a little thankful that that we have just enough, like that my family has just enough, and it's tight sometimes, but I feel like that actually can be, I don't know, I feel like maybe getting too much is like, I don't know. I guess I've just known too many people who were wealthy. But it almost feels like wealth can be kind of a curse. Crazy wealth. Don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of struggles that would disappear, right, with money, you know. And I definitely feel that, especially this year, you know, the let me just say, changing from an art director position to a high school teacher, while it's been good for my sanity, my bank account, not so good. Right? It's a pretty significant. Like I lost a zero in my income. You know what I mean? Um, but I don't know. Like I'm pretty happy. Like I've been pretty happy this year. Happier than I was when I had that extra zero. Um, and then I'm wealthier in some stuff like time. Like I have a little bit more time with my kid, time with my family. Um, and it's like so I just wonder sometimes, like I know it's a weird thing to say, but it's like there's definitely some times where I'm like kind of glad um I'm not like crazy wealthy. Um because I don't know, I think it might do something to like the soul. I don't know. Thomas said, I want to be crazy comfortable, not crazy rich. See, I don't know if I want to be comfortable either. But I definitely want needs met. Like that would be cool. To have needs met, be to be at a point where bills aren't like a huge concern would be nice. Um but there are like kind of levels of money that just are so absurd. I can't imagine them not doing something strange to your soul. Like Musk level money, it just seems like destructive to a human. I don't know if that makes sense. Um so anyhow, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think now I'd handle it better than, let's say, when I was young. If I had gotten some crazy record deal or something and like the band had blown up and we toured the country and stuff, I could imagine just becoming one of the worst human beings on the planet. I just realized she's not going to be holding a cup of tea and she needs to be actually gesturing and looking further over. So she should actually be looking to Elizabeth and kind of gesturing like, come on, come with me. Come with me. I'm leaving here. That's what she's saying there in that exact voice. Holly said, I don't know, I love a couple million. Holly said, I was raised greed is a sin, so I have insane guilt with abundance. I have guilt with anything financial because I was poor as hell growing up. And so I still have problems with, like, I get really offended if somebody throws out food. like, like, I just have this like bad habit of like, I will keep food like past its expiration date, kind of weird hoarder kind of stuff embedded in my psyche. And that just comes from, being pretty poor when I was a kid. So it's like, also deals, like, oh man, I love a good deal. Like I will haggle like crazy for like no reason. And it's hard for me to just kind of like enjoy, just like purchasing something without guilt. That just doesn't, yeah. So anyhow, I get that, Holly. But yeah, I mean, being even like thinking about it, like, being like at a point where, you could have a comfortable retirement, that kind of stuff. I think those are all good things. But I have known, man, like some of the most miserable people I knew, like I knew this guy who owned a business, multimillionaire, had a yacht, lived in Long Beach, in like the rich area of Long Beach. Like this is a weird area of Long Beach where the houses are like these little mansions, and the front of the house has a garage for the car, and the back of the house has a yacht parking spot. Like you park your yacht like you would in your garage, but at your little section of the harbor. This is like the very expensive part of Long Beach. And I knew this guy who did that, and he was one of the most unhappy people I've ever met in my life. Like he would date women who were like, 3/4 of his age, and just like was constantly like seeking validation and approval, and just like an uncomfortably like unhappy person, but like absurdly wealthy, and just like one of the least happy people I've met. And that was weird, that was weird to see, because it's like you would assume, like, wow, you got like millions of dollars, this crazy house, a yacht, all this stuff. It's like one of the most miserable people I ever met. So yeah, I don't know. Kind of always felt like one of those guys who's like trying to be with the cool kids and never was. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like hard to explain. But I remember like at first being like, wow, this guy's crazy wealthy. He's got to be like, and then after a while, just kind of feeling bad for him. Like I was expecting like, he's one of those guys where you meet him and you're like, oh, that's what inspired like Dickens to write like the Christmas Carol, Where it's like, oh wow, like this dude needs some ghosts from Christmas past, present, and future to come set him straight, Anyhow, there's another person who's going to be sitting here in the foreground. There's another cup here. I think we're getting there, guys. We're getting very close. Very close here. Thomas said, just enough to be able to pursue your dreams and hobbies without having to worry about bills. Dylan said, I'd like to have my art be at least 70% of my income. That's not a bad goal. I definitely had a point where my art was 100% of my income for a long time. And then now I guess I kind of like teach art, and that's most of my income now. So teaching art, but Yeah, I think it would be nice. It'd be interesting to get some of that movie option money, you know. There is like crazy money in film options. But yeah, I feel like there has to be a balance with that kind of stuff. But I definitely am not fooled into thinking that like wild success in your art is going to bring, you know, the fulfillment you've always looked for. You know, it's like it's the same promise of everything. You know, you have the promise of like different things consuming consumables where you're like, man, if I could just have this well, okay, there's some that are true though. Like for instance, you know, I saw that bread guitar case, you know, where it was a cute little piece of bread with a funny face and it's a ukulele case. I saw that and I thought if I got that ukulele case, I could probably die pretty happy. Like that case is magical. And I have to admit that that was one of the few scenarios where it was completely true. I didn't have buyer's remorse. I got that ukulele case, and ever since then, I felt like I was in Nirvana, not the band Nirvana. Like I had entered Nirvana because of the bread ukulele case. I'm going to show you guys that case too, just in case you think, what is this guy talking about? Okay, but I will say, I'm just kind of happiest when I am able to have time to work on stuff. So like even right now, being able to afford the time to work on these things and hang out with you guys, that makes me very happy. And makes me feel like a rich man. You guys make me a rich man. Also, you can support by getting books and, you know, checking out the music and all that stuff. Okay. You guys, we're almost there. We're at the last little section of this. Okay, I should show off this case. Okay, 2 orders of magnitude. I don't know even why I said of magnitude. I said orders. 2 points of order. That's what I meant to say. 2 points of order. Okay, one is we're going to show you the bread case. 2 is I'm going to do the borders now for this. We're gonna clean up the borders and then call it a night. Okay, but first I'm going to show you guys this. Dylan said, I definitely can't have a normal job at this time since my dad had spontaneous doctor appointments almost every month. I have multiple appointments a month myself, plus other hurdles. Yeah, that is rough, and I get it. Yeah. There's a friend of ours who is a mom and has been told that she has like maybe like a month to live, and that sucks. And her husband's been going through crazy medical stuff for like dealing with, you know, knowing that he's probably going to lose his wife for like about 2 years now, just in and out of like crazy treatments and stuff like that. It's rough, man. Life is rough, and not everybody's blessed enough to do what they want to do or even have like a full-time job. Like Dylan said, sorry to hear about your friend. No, I wasn't bringing it up to get sympathy. I was bringing it up just to say, like, I get it. Life is rough, and some people just are screwed, you know. And the best you can do is just kind of swim through scenarios like that. I think you got to just keep swimming, keep optimistic. This too shall pass, right? Okay. Let me show you the bread case. I'm going to show you guys the bread case. Here it is. It has a little bread bag for picks and other accessories. And it has a piece of bread here. And this is the most magical ukulele case on the planet. And that's the most heavy metal hardcore ukulele case on the planet. Okay. I just thought I should show you. All right, so let's do the borders here, and then let's get it all cleaned up. Yeah, that's true. Dylan said you can take a single slice of bread with you in that bread-shaped case. Yeah, that's true. That's what I should do. I should always have like a little loaf of bread in there. Just, so I have bread on the go. All right. What do we have now? Okay. So we're going to move this here. And then we're going to make some stuff go wild right now. We're going to finish this up. So all I'm doing right now is just kind of taking the borders and kind of cleaning them up so they're a better approximation of what the final borders will look like. And also this will allow me to, when I eventually use Illustrator to make tighter borders, I don't have to labor too hard over the measurements, which is kind of great. This is a little weird method I developed after about 40 of the pages. I was like, okay, this works. This works. Holly said, I had a friend in art school make a bedside table, a breadside table. It was the coolest thing, and I still want it. Okay, I want it. So we're going to have to fight for it, Holly. You and me are going to have an epic battle. That actually sounds really cool. So when you say a bread side table, was it actually like a little loaf of bread? Because that would be amazing. And Dylan was saying, person, oh no, I don't have a single slice of bread. Is there a single slice of bread around? And I'm like, I have a single slice of bread. Yeah. That's for like when I do a side project of like ukulele gigs. Let's go busk playing ukulele on the street. And then when somebody's walking around asking for bread, I'm like, I got your back. Not only do I have your back, I have bread with me. I really do wish they'd sell guitar cases like that in like for big guitars, not just ukuleles, because I would literally start keeping all of my guitars in those cases. Like if they had bigger size cases like that, I would keep every single guitar I have in them because I just think that's magical. And why can't cases be fun? Do you guys ever feel that way about kids stuff where like there's been times where I've gone with my kid to get shoes for him and I've looked at the shoes and been like, why don't I have shoes like these are the coolest shoes on the planet? How come adult shoes are so boring? And they get like cool shoes that like light up and have cool characters on them, like Spider-Man shoes and stuff. Like, I want Spider-Man shoes. None of this boring nonsense. Holly said it was a wooden table with a drawer shaped like bread, and she made a butter coaster. Okay. Your friend sounds like a pretty amazing human being. And that sounds like an amazing thing. That's cool. A bread shaped drawer. Ooh. Now I want that. See, now I'm see the fleeting happiness. Now I need that dresser to be happy. You see? You see how it works? Okay. Holly said kids' clothes are so cool. I want them in adult size. I agree. Even when we were at Universal Studios, half the cool stuff they had was like my son's size. And I was like, well, I want that too. They had this really cool all over dinosaur shirt from like the Jurassic Park store there. And it was just dinosaurs all over it, like doing cool things. And it was the coolest looking shirt on the planet. And I was like, why do adults do such boring clothes? We could have cool, adult size kid clothes. You know what I mean? Except the one exception to that is old grandpas, because grandpas rock the best clothes on the planet. I feel like the two most stylish people on the planet are grandpas and kids. But it is hard to go wrong with like a pair of grandpa pants, you know what I mean? Dylan said, I miss when some of my shirts had the sickest dinosaurs on them. I think all of our shirts should have dinosaur stuff on it. All right, guys. Kids clothes for all. Let's petition. Okay, thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. We got it done. Let me kind of zoom in and show you guys the results. So we got Nat. They're having their conversation, right? She kind of confides. Now we have, and finally we have they're leaving the table. We got through it, guys. Dylan said Joshua's first order as the prez. Nice. Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Dylan said somebody that lives around his area has a Jeep modeled after the original Jurassic Park Jeep and a JW Jeep. They look hella sick. Yeah, that would be amazing. I would be all about that. All right, guys. If you haven't yet hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when I'm about to go live. I hope you guys were able to get a lot done tonight while I worked on this. This puts me in a perfect position to start working on final pages for some of these starting tomorrow. So make sure you've hit the bell so you get notifications when I'm about to go live. I'll probably be doing these live streams periodically throughout the next few days. And I will see you guys on the next one. Have a happy Sunday now. It's now Sunday. So I hope you enjoy your Sunday. Sleep well, and bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream.